life doesn't always go the way we planned. There are always detours and turns and twists that we just can't prepare for. And sometimes they're just little things that don't work out the way we had wanted. This week, I had the opportunity to have a really beautiful conversation with a couple of my dear, dear friends. And we talked about our experience with breast cancer. Obviously not something anybody would wish for. But it was a beautiful conversation, and the theme that came out of that conversation is finding the beauty along the way. And who would ever think that something like cancer could actually help strengthen our faith? But that's what came out of this conversation. And I am going to share snippets of the conversation with you. The full story will be in my Live Your More community. But I just thought that I found it so inspiring, and I think you will too. So I hope you'll join me today as I share this beautiful perspective. Welcome to Longing for More, where Christians come to strengthen their faith, revive their soul, and learn to live their lives with a sense of fulfillment and peace. Listen each week to learn how to incorporate your faith into your daily activities, stop wandering through life feeling empty and unfulfilled, and begin to live your more. Let's get started. As we begin this conversation talking about finding the beauty along the way, I thought it was kind of ironic that this conversation was built to be a part of my Live Your More community. And I knew it was going to be a small, intimate group, and I had invited these ladies to come and share their story to inspire people to go in and get their mammograms in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. What I hadn't counted on was the fact that nobody else came. It was just the three of us. And, just the theme of finding the beauty along the way, I have to say that was one of the really most amazing conversations I've had in a long time. And to me, that's what's really important, is taking the time to have meaningful conversations. And so it was so meaningful that I decided that I wanted to share parts of that conversation with you all, so that I could give you some examples of how it is to find beauty along the way. First, I want to share with you the part of the conversation that helped us focus on the whole theme of finding the beauty along the way. Now, the first person speaking here is my cousin, Shannon Stroman. She too was diagnosed with breast cancer just a couple of months after I was, and chose to go with a double mastectomy, which is where she starts this conversation.
But in visiting with other people, and Vana being one of them, I decided for my full-time career, I bring peace of mind to families. I help people plan ahead. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to make the choice that brings me the most peace of mind. I don't want to have to come back in 10 years and be looking at the other side. And I don't really want to do chemo and radiation if I don't have to. I really didn't want to take tamoxifen for 10 years.
Right.
So thankfully, I was blessed enough that when my lymph nodes came out, they were clear. We got everything on the first shot, but I had some complications afterwards, and still deal with those almost daily or nightly, if I want to say, but it's not something that I can't handle. And I know God walks with me. But the interesting part of that is, and not to get on a COVID subject, but COVID had hit in 2020. It had changed our world no matter how you look at it. It just did. Then our mayor here in Sioux Falls started a walking challenge. And so as you guys talked about health, I thought, you know what, this is my wake-up call. COVID has slowed things down. Life isn't quite as busy as it was. I need to take better care of myself. So prior to that diagnosis, I've been doing this challenge. And so when that happened, it was like, on my walks, I started finding beauty around me. And Vana was in Sioux Falls for one of her doctor's appointments one day, and she said to me, "How long are your walks taking that you take all these pictures?" And I kind of smiled and I said, "You know what? I just stop and I snap them really quick." And so her words to me still ring in my ears. You know, God's giving you those pictures, right? And so I'm still on that journey of figuring out where that's supposed to be, but I feel like my diagnosis and all those things that happened that led up to that is something that I'm to be using to help others. And I know God's going to show me exactly what that is.
So yeah, I see a really beautiful book in your future.
I do, and I want it to be, and how I hashtag it is finding beauty along the way. And I feel like that's what God has given me that journey for, is no matter the situation we have in our life, we need to find beauty along the way.
Oh,
And so for me, I want that to come in pictures that I'm sharing on these walks of trying to be healthier for myself, I guess.
So, finding that path of peace, like Shannon talked about, is really important. But so is slowing down so that we can get the messages of what God is trying to tell us in life. So, not unlike my story, which you've heard before about how I was writing this book, my book, A Different View, but I wasn't getting it written. I was doing so many other things. And sometimes I wonder if my diagnosis wasn't kind of God's way of saying, let's do this. Let's get this book done. Now, we can argue all day long whether or not God gives us cancer, and I'm fine with saying that he didn't create that, because cancer is a bad thing. But I will agree that he can bring good from every situation. And in my situation, he exactly did that. So what I want to talk about next is kind of that place where I was before my diagnosis. And then we'll move into Estella Silva, my other friend that was on the conversation, talking about her diagnosis and how that has transformed her life. Unless you know somebody that's walked this journey, I mean, the good thing is that there is so much healing. I mean, the medical world has advanced so far. And so sometimes we have a tendency, it's like, oh, you have breast cancer, I'm sorry. And then move on, right? And don't really think about it anymore, because you kind of know in the back of your mind that it'll be okay.
yeah.
Until you can't just do that anymore. All of a sudden it's you, or it's someone that very close, and you understand the devastation that it has on your life, and the time that it takes, and the financial, and the appointments, and it's all of those things. So regardless of whether, it's like Shannon in my story where we caught earlier, or Stella's where it was further advanced, it changes your life and how you look at life, right?
Oh, yes.
So go ahead.
The Lord taught me a lot, just to trust in him. And that was my biggest test.
Yeah.
It was always these testings of like, are you trusting me? Are you
right.
letting me handle it? And I'm the type where before I was just like always thinking, oh, I can handle this. I can do this. And
I got this.
yeah. And he was also telling me to slow down too. I was just too much overwhelmed with a whole bunch of things. And I'm a person who's like, let's go, let's do this. And there was times where he's like, no, I need you to calm down.
The part of the story that you would get if you listen to the entire episode of the Gift of Faith, a conversation about cancer, is that Stella, unlike Shannon and I, who was able to catch our cancer through a mammogram, and both of us caught ours at stage 0, so very, very early in the process. Stella's was not caught until it was further progressed. It was actually, she was at a 2B. And because, and she and I were, how we met was we were both health coaches, and because she was on kind of that alternative healthcare path, Stella had made the decision to go with all natural processes. And that worked good for a while, but it didn't stop the cancer. And it's a really profound story, and I don't mean to make light of it by not sharing it here. I'm just trying to keep this episode a little shorter, because the full episode is about almost 50 minutes long, and I would love it if you'd come and listen to that there, and I'll share a link with that. And if you can't find the link, just reach out, because I really do want everyone to hear this story and see the full beautiful story there. But right now what I want to do is pick up on the conversation where Estella is talking about how she had surgery, and they had found that the cancer had spread, and this is her waking up.
And I just remember waking up from it, and my doctor was there in the room, and she was like, Estella, she's like, the cancer has gone to your brain. There was 3 three or four lesions in there, tumors, I'm sorry. And then she's like, there's a tumor near the pancreas. There's some in the bones. I felt like the list was going on and on and on. And then she said it's in your lungs. And so, yes, she's like, you're at stage 4 now, and it's metastasized pretty bad. And I remember again, she's telling me all this, and I'm just like at peace. Like it was like this calmness. I'm like, okay. But I'll never forget through this whole cancer journey, I always felt like telling people like, yeah, oh, and I did, but I was like, you don't know what God has planned for me. I was just like, because it almost seems like everyone was like, oh, you're gonna die. It's gonna get worse. It's gonna do this and this and that. Like everybody was like telling me, of course, stuff that could have happened, but I just was like, if it happens, I know I got God with me. And after that, I had to do radiation. I lost all my hair. That was a process to go through. And but I felt just calm. It was just like I said, going with the flow, like, okay, this is happening next.
Are you seeing the common thread here? Are you noticing how they're both talking about, what brings them peace, what brings them calm? I just think that that's a beautiful part of this conversation. So now I want to share a little bit more of how Stella actually was able to get to that place of calm.
I was like, okay, I need to trust you too, because that's one thing too. I always pray to God before my appointments, like, Lord, please speak through him so that I will know what to do. And as well as for me, like, make his words your words and my words your words, Lord, so that we can communicate. And just been confidence with that ever since. Last year in December, I did start chemo, though I finally got to that point where I was like, okay, it's time. And it was hard for me to do that because of all the things that I've learned about chemo.
Right.
And I was just, okay, it was another point. Again, I was calm, and I was like, I always said, if it ever came time, I want to be calm through it, because I don't want to think of chemo as a negative thing through while I'm taking it.
I feel really blessed to walk through this journey with both of these women. We have been able to support and encourage one another, even though Stella and Shannon actually just met each other in this process. But separately, they've been able to encourage and support me and I them. And that's the reason that we're sharing these stories today, folks. It's not to bring attention to us, not to highlight us and our story, but to help you realize that whatever is going on in your life, whatever your journey is, there's someone out there who can benefit from that journey. And we need to tell our stories. We need to share those struggles that we have in life so others don't feel like they're alone, and that we can help them through that. So that's really a beautiful part of it. But this last segment of the interview that I'm sharing in this part anyway, is really important. And I'm excited to share this with you, because this is really the crutch of it all. And accept that this was part of our journey, right? It's good. Right. It's made us all stronger. It's made us all trust him more. And who would think, the world would tell you that this was, a bad thing that happened in our life. But God can turn it around for good, right?
Yeah. And I have to share that through mine, I, of course, was gaining my confidence and my trust in the Lord. But I've been noticing and just been seeing more and more that my family has grown in their strength more. And my daughters is praying more, and my husband, we're doing prayers at the table, and it's just like, it's just been growing and blooming with them as well. My parents too. It's like, ever since this diagnosis, just we've all been like stronger, even with each other, with being family, because me and my sister, my dad and my mom, we were all a little bit like, oh, we'll see each other, special occasions and things like that. but it's brought us closer.
So, friend, isn't that just a beautiful, beautiful story? It brings me to the verse in Romans 8:28. And we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. So this thing that could have devastated our lives, and truly, I mean, some might say that it did, but we were able to find the beauty along the way. And you can too, no matter what circumstance you are going through in your life, whether it's big, like I said before, cancer or worse. You can find that beauty along the way. It might be in the sunset. It might be in the gentle touch of a loved one. It might just be the smile of a stranger. But there's beauty all around us. And I just encourage you to look for it everywhere. And just know that that's God reassuring you and knowing that he wants to bring you peace. He wants to bring you that calm that you can only get through trusting and believing him. So I just encourage you to have faith, to pick up your Bible, go to Scripture, get to know him through his words, pray to him, listen for his response to your prayers. And I assure you that all of that peace, that calm that we've been talking about today, regardless of what you're going through in life, he can bring that to you through those exercises, through those habits of just turning to him in all things. So I just thank you so much for listening. If you want to hear the whole interview between these two beautiful women, I would love to share that with you. It's in my Live Your More community. It's outside of Facebook because, well, I just kind of like having my own little space in my own little corner of the world. It's quieter, it's less overwhelming, and it just feels more authentic. So I'd love to invite you into that. I have a free space and I have a paid space. I'll be honest. To me, the good stuff is in the paid space. The free space looks a lot like a Facebook page, but regardless, come over, listen to the episode, The Gift of Faith. And if you want to stay, stay. If you don't, you can leave at any time. There's no hard feelings there. So I just want to thank you so much for stopping by. Your time is valuable, and it means so much to me that you are here. In 2 weeks, I have an amazing conversation, another amazing conversation with a beautiful woman who was previously an atheist. And she converted to Christianity, and we're going to have a really deep conversation about that. So I hope you'll come back in 2 weeks to listen to The Gift of Courage, which is a part of this journey. It takes courage to tell our stories. It takes courage to step out and do what God's calling us to do. So come back in 2 weeks and listen to that. If you know somebody who needs to hear this story, this whether it's this shortened version or the longer version, reach out, share this with them. Do whatever, get the word out, because it doesn't matter what we're going through in life. God can walk with us. He will walk with us if we ask him to, and that changes everything. So until next time, thanks again for coming. Thanks again for listening, and go be blessed and always, always live your more.